wow, I made $100,000, but 33 of it has gone elsewhere.
What's the biggest hack that people need to do to actually start healing their relationship with money? For people who are, that mental tax is taking a toll on them and they are intimidated by taxes, requires a mindset shift. What's the first mindset shift that you think they need to make?
If there is 20, 30% of your income that is coming out and you feel like you're financially struggling, there are opportunities and different resources that you can leverage to put that money back in your household. And then,
what's up, hackers? Welcome back to another special episode where we get the privilege of interviewing amazing guests on our podcast to talk about their unique career journey in their specific area of expertise. And today is no different than any other. We brought somebody who is bringing heat. Actually, she's probably going to help us avoid some heat with the solutions that she is going to share. Today, I have Ari Lawrence from Ignite Tax Solutions on the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast. And before we hop in, make sure you subscribe and set your alerts so you know about our videos that drop 2 times per week on Mondays and Thursdays. Ari, welcome to the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast.
hi, Candace. How
Okay,
are
now I
you?
hear you. I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk to you as well. I know that I say this all the time that I'm always in learning mode when I'm having these conversations, and I am a life coach, career coach, wellness expert. I am not a tax expert, so you are going to bless not only me, you are going to bless not only the people, but you're going to bless me as well. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. I know I've shared with you in pre-show that I've had my own experiences and stories to tell. We don't have enough time on a podcast today, but we know there's a lot of folks out there who may have challenges with understanding
Yeah.
your field of expertise. And I love the way you pose that there's a mental tax that we exhibit when we don't have the right knowledge and we don't have the right advisory or don't take the right steps. So today we're talking about that mental tax, right? And we know, I mean, this wouldn't even be a conversation or a problem to solve if filing taxes wasn't associated with some sort of stress and anxiety, right? Like
Yes.
we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And I think I saw a stat that said 56% of Americans report tax-related stress leading to anxiety, procrastination, and decision fatigue. I was alarmed. I was like, oh, this is just the people who want to tell the truth, right? So
Yeah.
I want to hop right into what people need to be thinking about. So for people who are, that mental tax is taking a toll on them and they are intimidated by taxes, requires a mindset shift. What's the first mindset shift that you think they need to make to gain control over their financial situation and not be mentally and literally taxed?
Yes. I mean, that is such a fantastic question. And my first recommendation is to embrace it. Okay. Taxes, nobody likes having the money deducted out of their bank account, but it could actually be a fantastic resource, whether you're an employee or if you have a business. Avoiding taxes, I see it all the time where people, they turn a blind eye, they don't want to deal with it, they don't know what's coming out, what's going in, and then they get to the end of the year, they get their W-2s and they're like, well, what happened to my money, or where is it going? And they're not paying attention that it is a passive liability. If you are not proactive in taking a look and seeing where your money is going, you're going to be surprised when you take a look at the end of the year. You see, wow, I made $100,000, but 33 of it has gone elsewhere, when you could have been proactive and actually put that money back into your home or your business or whatever it is that you have going on. So,
You said it's a passive liability. It's a passive liability. I don't know if I've ever heard that term, and I think um, the liabilities that we can see and hold and we see showing up in our bank accounts on a day-to-day basis, we tend to pay more attention to.
yeah.
And the ones that we don't see that spring up, those that just pop up on us real fast, those are the ones that actually take the most toll on. This is my experience. I told you I'm talking about me. Like
Yeah.
those are the ones that take, when I get an unexpected bill or a payment for something, especially when it's something that I knew I could have paid more attention to, And it would then I respond, it probably exposes the relationship that I have with money and the one
Yes.
that I'm working on repairing right now. So that's me sharing a little bit of my own vulnerability. And I've been openly talking about my healing journey with money because it's led to some of those poor decisions. But share with us, I know you didn't just arrive here to Tax Solutions with this mindset, right? Like, I'm sure there's a part of your story that just caused you even to go into this field, or just things that you experience either working with a client. Tell us kind of how you got here, a little bit about your journey, and then just kind of what are some of those common themes that now with this experience that you see people need to, that they're doing and they need to pay more attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like many people being passive, didn't really think I had a say so in my tax burden. I was just, like everybody else, work a job, get your W 2, you file your tax refund, you get your change back, and go on about your day. But it was almost about 10 years ago, I started working for a small business. And in that business, I had an opportunity to see directly how these CEOs are operating, and their thinking is completely different. They don't look at taxes, and yes, they don't like them, but they see it as an opportunity, as a positioning for strategy to leverage their business. And so that's one of the things I became passionate about, is because in our community, we don't talk about taxes. Everybody just waits for their refund to come back. And what people don't realize is the key word is refunds. Okay. When you get that money deducted out of your paycheck, that is you giving the federal government an interest free loan, and then at the end of the year, they give you a W 2, and they just giving you some money back with a little sprinkle on top of it. That's all
Right.
it is. And so a lot of people don't realize, well, you don't actually have to fork over all of that money. And so by working with these entrepreneurs and seeing how these business owners were structuring their money and moving it around, that's when I became passionate about just having a commitment to educating the community and empowering them to make better choices.
Love that. Love that. Yes. And so you talked about that refund.
Yes.
And when you said our community, like, tax time, everybody get a new car, like
Yes.
all the things happen, everybody's looking, they calling off work. Even when I was working in the retail environment, there were people who would quit their jobs behind a tax
Yeah.
refund. So talk a little bit more about where that myth of refund, or just this thought process that the refund, like maybe a misconception of what the refund is, where do you think that stems from, and how would you bust that myth of, like, what is what really is the refund, and how should you really be leveraging it, like?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. And really, one of the things is kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, where it's a passive choice. It's something that just happens. People think that it's normal because that's what the masses are doing. They get their tax refund, and, we going out getting steak and lobster, and it's a good time. But what people don't realize is that, again, this is an interest free loan that you're giving to the government, where that is actually money that you could have put back in your pocket, that you could have invested it. And there's so many tax-free strategies to move your money and grow your money. So instead of just having the, government take their money out and utilize it however they see fit and giving it back to you, you could have multiplied that money 2 and 3 times over if you
Mm.
would have taken advantage of some tax-free strategies to just expand your income and being creative with it.
And what's an example of one of those tax-free strategies, if you just gave a free one? We want them to come and pay for services. Or what's an example of one of those things that maybe most people are not aware of, that is a strategy they could leverage?
Yeah, so if you have a job, you want to get into, especially if your job offers a match, that is free additional money. So if you have a job that is matching 3 and 4%, that money can be deducted out and go to a tax-free saving account. So your tax liability is reduced. You can do flexible savings account, health savings account. There are so many different tools out there, insurance plans, that we're often not aware of, that is accessible to us, especially right in our day-to-day jobs. I don't know how many times people actually go back to HR, and since they got hired and the day they leave, how many times do you actually go back and sit with HR and say, hey, I know I have some benefits. Can you go through and tell me, how I can access that money and put that aside? And then same thing if you're a business owner, right? There are so many different ways that you can spend your money to reduce your tax liability. And it's all about telling the IRS a good story on your tax return to reduce your tax liability.
Yes. So relate that to the resume. It's like you trying to get the
Yes,
job and you want to tell the story with your resume. It's the same thing with your personal P&L, which is your bank account.
yes.
So amazing share there. And something occurred to me as we were as I was you were talking, because we talked about mental tax, and we're talking about all those things that lead up to the mental tax. But I don't know that we've defined, like, what is that and what does it look like? What does the load of a mental tax look like, and how would you define it for the audience?
Yeah, the load of a mental tax is really just avoidance, which I think a lot of us practice when it comes to our finances. When the check's coming out, you spend it, and that's really it. And I see the same thing happening with taxes, is that we're avoiding it. We don't talk about it. Even to my newlywed couples, I recommend pull your tax transcripts together and take a look at them, because
Mm,
sometimes you might not realize your spouse, and then when y'all go to file your taxes, you're like, well, I'm only getting $22 back. And so there's a lot of things that occur when you avoid talking about your finances, talking about your numbers, and that can ultimately add weight to your life. If there is 20-30% of your income that is coming out and you feel like you're financially struggling, there are opportunities and different resources that you can leverage to put that money back in your household, and then reduce the burden of trying to figure out, where am I going to come up with the money for my kids to go to college, where am I going to come up with the money to invest in this business or take care of a loved one in their old age. So there are so many things that avoiding talking about taxes can really cost you.
really, and I think you exposed something that I think needs to be talked about deeper, and I think it's like it stems from a poor emotional relationship with money. So
Yeah.
I know you're going to share tactical things that people can do, but from a mental standpoint, like, talk about some common themes you see with on how that poor relationship was even birthed, and then maybe a few things that people can do, some first steps, or depending on where they are in their journey, some things people can do to start to overcome that poor relationship and turn it healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that taxes, just like finances in general in our country, they're not really heavily talked about unless you are raised up in a home where you're regularly having these conversations and you're sitting around the table, listening to adults talk about their finances and how they're moving money. By the time you become grown, well, you just think that, taxes is something you don't really have a say so and a choice in. And same thing when it comes to credit and investing and Roth IRAs and 401ks and all these different things. A lot of times we might know that we need to do it, but it's scary, and they don't exactly make it easy to understand taxes. I mean, I really believe that it's true, is that, the things they don't want you to know, they're going to put in a book, because most of the times people are not going to sit there and read. I mean, who wants to sit there? I enjoy reading tax laws, but most people, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, let me go to the IRS website and let's see what come out in the latest publication. I mean, that is not something that's normal. And so when they're making all of these changes to, how much is coming out, the tax bracket changes, all these things that are heavily impacting your household, people don't really know what to do with that. Even if you do hear something, you're like, well, they changed the tax rate, but I don't think there's anything that I can do about it. And same thing with accessing, credit and putting your money in these different places. People know that they need to get better about it, but a lot of times there's not a lot of resources. And, even in my community and, the accounting and tax community, it's very hard to find somebody that breaks taxes down. I mean, a lot of times, people are just sending their tax return off to this person that's filing their taxes, and that's really it. There's no exchange in conversation about, hey, I noticed that you're doing this. You should probably move some money over here, because if you put an extra $500, that may actually reduce your tax bracket, and now your tax liability has gone down 5,000 just by putting a couple $100 extra over here. So this just about not having the conversation. We don't know what's going on. We don't know, what they're writing and producing. And unfortunately, a lot of times we just feel intimidated by it, like we don't have a choice and a say so
Yeah.
when it comes to our finances.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The perhaps the absence of the conversation
Mhm.
when it mattered most, and that was during the developmental stages. And I think that's where many people find themselves is they're starting to figure this thing out, like in their 20s and 30s, and sometimes even later than
Yes.
that. And so it requires you to go into like, I mean, it's like learning how to walk
Yeah.
almost, right?
Yeah.
So if I was that adult that's 30, I'm 38, and I'm trying to learn how to walk with taxes to
Mhm.
overcome my emotional relationship to really push forward into abundance mindset. What's the based on the themes you see, and what's the biggest hack? Like, and if you shared it, feel free to repeat it. But what's the biggest hack that people need to do to actually start healing their relationship with money, and then also be able to be in responsible standings with your taxes?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first approach I would recommend is people can go online. The IRS, thankfully, has finally made accounts where anybody can go in and pull their tax transcripts. So I would recommend people keeping your tax transcripts up to 3 years. So 3 years back. So we're 2024. Keep your tax transcripts
Good.
back to 2021, because one thing that people don't know is that you can actually amend your tax return up to 3 years back. So let's say you missed
Mm,
out on some money or on some credits and deductions. Well, that's an additional refund and some money you might have sitting aside. And same thing if you owe money. If you amend your tax return and there was something that was missed there, you can go back in and make those changes and they'll apply it to their tax debt. So, one, you want to get ahead. You want to pull your tax refunds and have somebody take a look at it and see if there was anything that could have been missed. Then next thing you want to do is you want to work with a tax advisor. So I tell people this, I know y'all love these softwares and everybody does it. And whichever one you're using, whether it's the green one, the red one, the purple one, whatever one you're using, the problem with those is same thing that we talked about with social media is it is a one size fits all platform. Okay. It's not taking a look at the totality of your life. It's not taking a look at your goals, at your past, where you're trying to go. It is applying a one size fits all algorithm, if we're being real, okay? And
mm,
so you are depending on a computer to get your numbers right and file your taxes. And does it file the taxes? Yes. But that does not mean you got everything back that was due to you.
mm.
And so people really need to, first thing, get your tax transcript, take a look at your last 3 years, get with a tax advisor. A lot of times, tax advisors will offer that as just an incentive to go back and review and see if you missed anything. And then also to get proactive. Even if you are doing your own taxes, really take a look at the software that you're utilizing and making sure that you're getting everything back that is due to you. So, those are going to be my first things. Don't be passive. Take a look. I know it's scary, and people don't want to embrace it. But that's going to be
Yeah.
your first line is just put it all out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, those were excellent, excellent tips. And I love, of course, there's the tactical piece of like, hey, and maybe people don't know to pull their tax transcripts. I don't even, I think I just stumbled upon it a few years
Yeah.
ago when when it was requested of me, and I was like, well, I don't have time to be sitting on hold. Let me go figure
Yes.
let me go figure this out. So of course those are those that they're those tactical things, but I think the other piece of it, and I think this is where it requires honesty and transparency, because people can only help you from the truest version, from your if you're being the truest version of you. And so
Yeah.
some of the challenges that I've had in the past and that I still see and hear from clients is they don't want to share with people what their financial situation is.
Yes.
And because we weren't having those conversations early on, and so
Yeah.
therefore they aren't nobody's able to help them where they truly are. And
Yes.
so having I think the overarching thing for me, and this pertains to you as a tax expert, is community.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Community, you have to have a advisory team. It's kind of like with your mental health, like your professional community
Yeah.
is here to help you with this, but you've got to be willing to, and I keep going back to therapy. My therapist told me, like, I mean, you can pay me and we can come in here and talk, but if you don't tell me the
Right.
truth, I can't help you.
Yes.
Go to that professional community as it relates to finances and tell the truth about where you are so you can get to I mean, we're all seeking stability, financial stability. Generational wealth is the term. Generation financial
Yeah.
wealth, all those things. Like, we can't get there if people can't help us from where we truly are.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, too, I think another thing that's not normalized in our community is actually having financial advisors. So, whether that's a tax person, an accountant, CPA, whoever you're working with, when you look at a lot of other communities, it is very normal for them to have these advisors that talk to them. Hey, you want to purchase a home? They review everything with them and say, okay, this is what you need to do. And same thing when it comes to taxes. Again, it is not normalized necessarily in our community to have a dedicated tax person. We think of it as, oh, that's a luxury. That's for something that people that are wealthy do, but it's not. It is an everyday person. I guarantee Bob, from HR has somebody that's doing their taxes and really
Yes.
taking a look. And so we need to normalize investing in our finances and seeking resources.
Yes, yes. Bob from HR definitely has a financial
Yes.
advisor. That's good. One of our co-founders, actually, she has a investment team that she runs, and I'm always like excited about when she shares things because I'm like, even I mean, I know we're in the career space, but they need to hear the stories of,
Yeah.
what our one of our co-founders is doing on the investment side to make it normal. To your point, like
Yeah.
normalizing, but it's not a sacrifice. It's a
Yes.
decision. It's a
Yeah.
decision. So, thank you so much for sharing it. Before we go to our final 5 words, tell us, how can we reach you? How can people get connected with you for your services? Just we want people to tap in. So tell us more about that, and then you'll share your final 5 words.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach out to our firm on ignitetaxsolutions.com. You can also follow me at Ari Talks Taxes, and you can slide me a DM and I'll get back with you and we can set up a time. And then we also have some additional team members to meet different needs. So we offer a lot of different services. So just reach out, submit a contact form, and we will get with you.
Love it. Love it. Yes. Tap into Ari. I think I on Instagram, Ari Talks Taxes. So
Yeah.
I always love to see the videos there of you waiting on people to submit their forms. Listen,
Yes.
Ari told you today she is here to help you overcome the mental tax, give you tactical and heart led advice on how to heal your financial past and grow your financial future. So I'm looking forward to seeing all that you do out there. So, Ari, as we do with all of our guests, we ask you to final 5 words. So, what would you share with the people today for your final 5 words?
My final, just five random words, or it's got to make a
However
sentence.
you want to do it. I had, one time I had someone who just started talking again. I was like, all right, cool, let's do that then. So, what? Final 5 words, however you like it.
Yeah, so my final five words is going to be proactive, diligent, um, goal oriented, and growth mindset. And I think that was what, four? Is that four
Yep,
words?
yep.
And I got to do
Four
one more.
ish. Yep, yep.
Let me think. What's another one? Yeah, just growth, just
Yeah, yeah.
perseverance, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and what I want people to take from this is what I got from it as well is, and a word that resonated with me was healthy.
yeah,
Having healthy routines around this. I mean, making conscious choices. Like, we're more healthy when we make conscious choices regarding our health. And the
yeah.
same thing pertains to how we handle our finances. So I hope that everybody's encouraged to get to the root of it. If you're already far along in your journey, Ari says she can meet you where you are. She can meet you if you have a poor relationship with money and never heard about taxes before, or if you have a tax advisor and you want someone to connect with that is going to help you continue to elevate in your journey. I think Ignite Tax Solutions is an amazing solution. So thank you, Ari, again for joining us today. It has been my pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you inside of our career hacker community as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Candace. It has been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.